Good morning, boys and girls. It's lovely to be able to talk to you all this morning because the school feels so strange and empty without you all. I have been very impressed by how hard you're all working and all your great posts on Seesaw. In fact, you've been my inspiration for this week's assembly. Now, we all know that this is a very important week in the Scottish calendar, and this is the week that we get to celebrate our national bard, Robert Burns. And hearing you reciting your Selkirk Grace, seeing the lovely tartans that you've designed, hearing you singing your Scottish songs, and looking at all the yummy menus that you had created for your very own celebrations on Monday there, I got to thinking that it would be such a good idea to take you to Burns country. You could see where Robbie Burns was born and spent quite a bit of his life. But obviously, we're in the middle of a COVID-19 pandemic, so that's not possible at the moment, and we're not allowed to travel out of our areas. And you know how Miss Gibson is for sticking to the rules. So I had an idea. Now, not many of you will know this, but some of Miss Gibson's family actually live in Ayr, very near to Alloway Kirk as it happens. So I asked them if they would be prepared to make a film for the boys and girls of Carnshore Primary. And guess what? They were absolutely ecstatic. They wrapped up warm last weekend, took out their camera and their drone and went and recorded some footage for us. Then they sent it to Miss Gibson and I did a voiceover. So in a few minutes, you are going to see Burns country, where he was born, the land that he worked. Now, one or two of the things you'll see or I'll be telling you about will seem a bit familiar, and that's because you've all been learning all about Robert Burns and his life and his work. Now, a wee piece of advice: if at any point you don't hear my voice, watch really closely, because I might just ask you a question or two. You are approaching the very house where Robert Burns was born on the 25th of January 1759. Life was very hard. Rabbie's family worked really long hours tending to the land and the cattle. You might be surprised to find out that Rabbie, like most children then, had to work from around the age of 9. Can you imagine Rabbie, the eldest of 7 children, and his parents all living in these tiny rooms? It must have been very cramped. Rabbie was lucky enough to learn to read and write, which he absolutely loved. Rabbie was inspired by his love of language, nature, and by the land he worked. As we enter Alloway village, we see Suitor Johnny, Tam O'Shanter's friend, who he loved like a brother. They spent many an evening drinking ale in the local inns together. Travelling along Poet's Path, the first sculpture you will see is of a fox. Can you find out which poem or song this comes from? Moving along Poet's Path, what else can you see? Watch closely as the drone moves very quickly. Do you notice anything in particular? Can you spot the haggis from Burns's address to the haggis? Or the twa dogs? What was the difference between them? Who did they belong to? After the haggis comes the mouse. Rabbie wrote To a Mouse in 1785. Well, did you spot the weather vanes as we passed over Poet's Path? Let's have a closer look. What's happening on this one? Can you see 2 friends drinking ale and making toasts? Do you see the witches dancing to the sound of the bagpipes? Who is this on his trusted horse? This is Alloway Kirk. Who is outside mesmerised by the witch? Now the witches are chasing him. Oh no, the witch has grabbed Meg's tail and pulled it right off. You're right, it's Tam O'Shanter. We've reached Alloway Auld Kirk, where some of Rabbie's family are buried, and which, one dark, rainy evening, inspired Rabbie to pen the poem Tam O'Shanter. Hard to imagine Tam watching through the window as the witches danced and danced from this sunny footage. As we come over the top of Alloway Auld Kirk and head towards Brigodoon, we will see the sculpture of Tam on his trusty horse Meg, before heading towards the bridge which would take Tam to safety if he could only get across before the witches caught him. The drone will hover over the keystone o' the brig. I'm sure that you'll have learned that witches can't cross water. Where the drone hovers is the spot where Meg led her master to safety, but lost her tail in the process. We circle around towards Burns's monument. What an impressive sculpture. Look closely. Can you see Brigodoon over to your right? This monument is dedicated to Robert Burns. The years of working the land unfortunately affected his health. Robbie became very ill and died in 1796 when he was only 37 years old. Many of you will have paid tribute to him on Monday by holding your very own Burns supper. He has never been forgotten. Rabbie's legacy is his many wonderful poems and songs which are learned and recited all around the world. I hope you enjoyed that short film, boys and girls, and perhaps once COVID restrictions have been lifted, you and your family might visit Burns Country in person. Now, what I'd like you to do for me this week is to take all your information and your learning from your seesaw tasks and add it to any new facts that you have picked up from this film. Pretend that you work for the Scottish Tourist Board and you are trying to encourage people to come and visit Burns Country. So can you create a poster or a leaflet or a brochure or perhaps even a TV advert and see if we can get more people to come and visit? Now, if you're a budding writer and have felt inspired by Burns's poems and songs, perhaps you could write an ode to your favourite food. Now, it might be mince and tatties or Scottish tablet or stovies, just like Burns did when he wrote his address to the haggis. Now, I'm really looking forward to seeing what you all come up with. Good luck.